Hello, everybody. I'm Rick Kempe, filling in for Rick DiClemente for episode 373 of Astrology Unplugged. And this evening, I am happy to be filling in. So, kind of disappointed for our friend Rick. He is having internet troubles. So, such is life. Um, this evening, we're going to go ahead and open a discussion about conflict and elements of conflict as well as conflict resolution. We are going to open this up for a lot of internal dialogue. You're more than welcome to uh, put your thoughts into the mix at any given time. And I'm going to throw into a chat my first thought here that I would like to share. So, my first thoughts are that for the individual, our internal challenges from hard aspects astrologically create internal conflict, and that plays out in our lives as we seek to learn through life how to cope. Conflict starts inwardly, and when you struggle with an area of life, that's always going to be a prime area where you may have conflict. It's a possibility you all may have actually looked at your charts and thought about different places about conflict. Have any of you ever looked into that? I see some laughter from Deborah. Was that regarding conflict? Feel free to unmute yourself and share. You're muted at the moment.
Yeah, conflict has been a part of my life, all my life. I think it's maybe the Taurus thing in me. I'm stubborn and I stick to my guns.
Yeah. But I think it's a human experience that is universal. And I'd like us to go ahead and dive in. So the Tarian element has its unique shape and character. All the signs, all the planets will have their individual influences. Has anyone ever recognized some of their own qualities and characteristics regarding conflict as it relates to either sign or planet?
No, because I'm a Leo.
What does that mean?
No.
Unpack that for us.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
Okay.
It's totally a joke. If I could just if I could intercede for a moment, Rick. So I'm already loving this discussion, and I'll be honest with you, Rick C has been kind enough to take the heavy lifting here because I am not feeling well at all. But as I told some of the early arrivers, I took some ibuprofen, so maybe I'll get to feeling better. But uh, I do have something that is so relevant for this. I know of two situations, and situation A, the person is a Pisces, having a conflict with a very, not only is she in Aries, she's got a bunch of stuff in Aries. And it's a very strong relation. It's a mother and child relationship. So that's already a pretty impactful, powerful, intimate relationship. Whether you like your mother, you don't like your mother, whatever happened.
Or both.
Yeah. Yeah. And I look at, I stand back and I see, wow. Because I kind of see both of their points of view at different times, but the Pisces just feels so kind of unable to defend herself at times, and her defense is actually to not acknowledge and to kind of be a little bit, let me pull the wool over my eyes. That's how she copes with it. And I don't, this is people in my own family, so I know them very well. And then the Aries person, I mean, it's just seething out of her. She doesn't even have to say a word, just the presence, her energy in a room with this other person is like, oh my. And the Pisces, she actually said something the other day that I thought, wow, isn't that something? She goes, I feel like I've been hung on the cross. Isn't that a Piscean thing to say? Yeah.
Right.
And the Aries just doesn't understand, why don't you just see it my way? Because you hurt me, you know.
Right.
And I understand, because she's very, at this point in her life too, she's a young person, she's very me oriented.
Sure.
She can't, neither one of them are being evil people. They
Right.
just can't really get to a point where they can see each other's points of view enough to, whew, to just relax enough to really listen. So the conflict has been going on for years. And I hope to God, we just went to a funeral for my own mother, and it kind of forced them to be in the same room, and I could tell that the shoulders were relaxing a little bit, but it's hard to watch. And in particular, here's Aries, talk about Martian energy. Mars being this, I mean, you could feel the Mars in her instantly. And the other person is quite compassionate, quite just soft, but at the same time, she doesn't see things. She's a little nebulous in the way she sees things. You know what I'm saying? It's really interesting to watch. So I wanted to just kind of share that. And if I turn my camera off, bear with me. But I'll be back. Yeah.
Well, why doesn't the daughter just tell the mother, listen, Mom, I know that you are like a gigantic sponge and you just soak up everything, but I am this loudspeaker and I have to express my energy, and just don't even take it personally, or tell
Right.
yourself, I'm unloading this, and then I'll be fine.
Yes.
And don't
Yes.
absorb it all into yourself. I have to do this.
Right.
I
That's
think there's also an element of wisdom that comes from experience you're sharing, that somebody who is young enough that they're still wrestling with these issues has not taken enough time to internalize their validation for their individuality yet.
yes.
So while you're not finding your validation internally, oh, how the externals just glare at you, you know?
Yeah.
There's a large
Yeah.
impact that creates.
And
But the mother is mature.
But
And
the
by
daughter cannot
now,
express
she
from
should
a place of
learn.
maturity.
right.
No, I'm saying the mother is mature, so she should have learned by now. People are going to do their thing. Just let them do it. It has nothing to do with me. I don't
Right.
want to be, they don't want to put me on the cross. They're just expressing.
Right.
True. I have not, I feel, I believe it or not, I haven't looked at the mother's chart because I don't have a time of birth, but she's got to have other really strong planets, because she is extremely controlling. She is. But
Scorpio.
you made a good point, Erica. If you guys know the book, The Four Agreements, right? It's such a simple, beautiful book. And this is one of my favorite, it is my favorite quote. Nothing other people do is because of you. It's because of themselves. And so his point being, don't take anything personally. And
Right.
they're both But when you're in the middle of it, it's easy for me to, to see it in this way because I'm not in the middle of it. I'm on the outside and I watch it play out, and I hate they used to be really close when they were younger, but you know what I've learned too, you feel a certain way about yourself based on probably the stress in your chart, and then in the world you will find evidence of that. It confirms, oh well, you're attacking me. Oh well, you're really, because you believe that you're always being attacked, so you'll find evidence of, oh, people are just, she didn't like me, she said this about me, blah 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 blah. And it goes on and on and on, and you can, it's the stories you tell yourself, but it
Well,
is.
it's a lot of shadow experience.
Yes.
We are filling in gaps from our shadow. When somebody doesn't say something, then we imagine what they say,
Right.
what they think, what they feel, based on our given relationship.
Right.
And we hate in other people's what we dislike in ourselves the most, but we blame them for it. It's like, how dare you be such a person? But you have that inside yourself and you hate it. So you can't accept it, right?
Yeah,
And
I've
what
actually,
you were saying about noticing everything, like, have you ever focused on, oh, what color do I want to paint my fence? And then everywhere you go, all you see is fences. Or you
Yes.
see that car that you want to buy. It's like, how come there's so many Jeeps around here? I never noticed. They were there the whole time, but you weren't focusing on them and they were there. So it's the same with what you're saying about people not liking you because you think that you're not liked or whatever.
Right. Right.
yeah, there's a lot to be said for the power of attention. When I think when I try to explain it to others, I make them think of the last time you bought a newer used car and you go to a very large parking lot and you come out the first time, you see that car everywhere, and it's
Exactly.
very odd, the experiences.
Or you're sad and lonely and all you see is couples kissing
Right.
and everybody's in love and you're like,
You're not.
right?
Or the couple who can't have children seeing babies everywhere and sometimes even seeing them mistreated. Right. So conflict. There's a lot of inner conflict in what we see, what we want, and what we're frustrated in our attempts to try to create and do. So we've talked a little bit about the extremes of Aries to Pisces,
What?
beginning and end of the zodiac. And a little bit about Taurus. What about the other signs in between or planets? A lot of can be said about any of them. Some of you have the experience in astrology. Have you experienced anything really tricky to work through with helping a friend who might come to you and say, hey, you're familiar with astrology. How do I deal with this?
Well, we knew people who had also adopted children,
Okay.
and their children were very self-destructive and getting to be suicidal.
Mm-hmm.
And they would come to us because we had the experience of being adoptive parents who had lost their child to suicide. And I just looked at these kids' charts and it was like, it's right there. If you look at this and this and this in their personality, this is why they're acting out this way. It's not against you. It's not
Right.
something you're doing wrong. It's this conflict, like you were saying, that they have within themselves. And they couldn't see that because they didn't speak that language. They just looked at it the way that people normally do. And none of this stuff was really included in the way that people generalize things. So right away, they said, oh, wow. And they calmed down and they acted differently toward their kids, and their kids are still around.
Right. If you don't have
So that was
astrology,
astrology.
if you don't
Yeah.
have astrology, all you have available is to look at what you see and what you hear from the individual in behavior, thought, word, deed, whatever it is. And you're trying to take that as a whole picture, but you don't know the underlying part. And one of the underlying parts that I think is very overlooked, children frequently have emotions that are larger than their age of maturity has given them skills to express.
Yeah.
And there's where parents pay the price. We pay the price for not being able to put into words what a child feels when they don't even have words to put it in out loud for themselves. That's troublesome. And
Hey, I see a familiar looking face here. Pretend
good
it
to
could
see
be
you, Rick. The
Are you
internet must be
facsimile
back.
of Rick?
You're a
I
little
got
frozen.
internet through my phone.
Oh,
If it looks
good.
good, I'll just watch. I'll just watch.
All right.
Okay.
Good
Sounds
to
good.
see you.
So I looked at a few thoughts that other people online had to share about conflict. The Aries with that Mars is very can do, step in, take the lead decisively with precision. They seek to get into a conflict and end it as quickly as possible. They are certainly the people that others enjoy having on their side when there's a larger conflict.
Right.
It's nice to have them
True.
with you, but
And one thing
that's
that is, I think, pretty healthy about the way they do conflict is that, for the most part, we're always going to have
they're
other.
very open.
They're open, and they'll go back and forth, but then they'll let it go.
Yes, the fire that is cardinal can raise up and make some flames
Mhm.
come at you, but they just as quickly die down.
Mm-hmm.
So once they've expressed, they're satisfied. They've been heard.
Right. Right. Right.
And it's always helpful to remember the Aries ruling the head is very connected to the bodily idea of identity is in my head. It's in who I am as a being that I share and express.
I think that's part of, sorry, Rick, that's part of the conflict situation I was saying before with the Piscean and the
Mhm.
Aries. You can sense that really, truly, at the bottom of all this, what the Aries wants is for her to be just accepted for who she is, and just hear me out and accept me as I am. This is me.
And that's the mother.
That's the daughter.
The daughter is the Pisces. Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
The mother is the Pisces.
The mother is the Pisces, so the Aries is the daughter, and she wants to be accepted for who she is. And it's not comfortable for the other party. That's uncomfortable for which is ironic because Piscean people can be so accepting, can be so open.
One thing I can see is she did not get her sense of validation and identity from her own internal validation, nor did she get it from age peers and people who were adult in her life. Sadly, she's looking for it from her child, she should be looking to the child's needs, not her own.
Right.
Because she's supposed to have developed this before she can teach it.
Yes, I see that. I see that a lot. Yep.
Hey, Claudia, is that daughter also the firstborn?
Yes.
Another conflict.
I rest my case. It goes along with the sign of Aries, the first sign of the zodiac.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm very literal about
Okay.
the zodiac, and
All
I'm
right.
not a chart reader per se about progressions and
But you understand
consumption.
story.
Yeah, I do understand story, and I have a sister who is an Aries, and she wasn't the firstborn, but she was the first daughter.
Mhm.
And I think they're the ones who take the hard knocks, and they can't quite let go of it.
Yeah.
And it is their story all the rest of their lives. And you're right, they let it go. They say their piece, they raise their voices or whatever. Uh, but I still love you, and then all is fine. But
Right.
they
Right.
just won't let go.
They will. An Aries can also be a younger child and steps in to a place of being the vocal one who can oftentimes be treated like a black sheep in the family
Mm.
because they're the ones that are outraged so quickly.
Right.
Yeah,
I see that a lot. She's actually been a bit ostracized from her family. Not a bit. She has been quite a
significantly.
lot. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a feeling after maybe after her Saturn return, uh she will, that feistiness, not she'll always be that, but um the willingness to the willingness to actually accept her own mother the way she is. You ever hear the expression, whatever you're seeking from somebody else, you have to be able to do that as well. You need to do it. So if I'm seeking, I don't know, fairness from you, then I need to give that to you. And I need to be able to step up to the plate of, let me offer that. And it usually comes right back. Um, I
It's
got,
hard to give from your needs as opposed to your abundance, though.
yeah.
And that's where a lot of people get tripped up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They don't seek to heal their own wounds,
No, that's true.
you know. And it, I'm not busting anybody's chops because it takes time and awareness to do that.
Oh,
That's something
yeah.
that it is very, I mean, that's one of the beauties of friendship. Friendship is a powerful ally in life. How many people uh, can say they've never had a good friend, or at least never had a friend help them talk something through,
Right.
you know? And I'm not talking about a conflict between the friends. I'm saying, like, when you have an issue in life,
Mm-hmm.
your friend knows you better than you know yourself
Yeah.
frequently.
Yeah.
They know your thoughts, they know your perspectives, what you're going to double down and go to battle for. So they're incredibly insightful and they can really make a difference. So, for any of you latecomers who are not aware, Rick was having a little bit of an issue, so we're on to a topic different than what was suggested. It is basically focusing around conflict, and we're looking at different parts of the chart that can be indicators of either conflict or conflict resolution. We've talked about a couple signs, and I'm going to move on next to Taurus. Just to throw something out there, since it was brought up a little bit, there is a retreat element in Taurus and wanting to maintain status quo, but there's also a wonderful appreciation for feeling good. So when in conflict with a Taurus, it does help if you can try to help them see what it is they're going to get in the outcome. How will it be better if we can resolve a conflict where there's mutual benefit?
We could talk about it over a nice piece of cake.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Or even a meal of choice, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The perfect cup of joe, you know?
You know, I think Taurus gets this reputation for being stubborn, and they can be. Totally. Absolutely. But I always like to look at the ruler of the sign, uh, because for the most part, they're just really nice folks that don't really want to rock the boat too much. Uh, that being said, you have to look at other things in the chart, and we know that. We know that, you know, just because you're a Taurus doesn't mean that you're going to be a nice guy. But overall, the sense of stubbornness, um, it's not like a fighting, feisty sort of. I think it's just that they're fixed.
Right. And I like to go ahead and look at that trait that gets interpreted as stubbornness
Mm-hmm.
as just slow to change.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
Because they will make changes, but they do it over a long time. And if you're trying to make them rush into a change, please remember they took a long time to decide what they like, what they want. Venus ruler. They decided, and they're not changing their mind because they had the decision right the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any experience with Tauruses as far as that goes? Renate is
Go ahead and
smiling over there.
unmute yourself, Renate.
I have a lot of
I
experience
love
with Taurus because I'm a Taurus.
I have,
Okay. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
called the Taurus 10-day rule. If you come across with some new idea to me, like, let's go to Latin America this summer, it'll be like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Latin America, they have, like big bugs and pythons and stuff in the jungle, that'll kill you. And what about, the war going on down there, and all the negative things come up. And then eventually I will look at it more and more, and it becomes less and less alarming. And then I can finally, because it's that protective measure. First, I have to protect
Yes.
and make everything safe,
Sure.
which is part of the reason for the structure to begin with, to make it solid and, as foolproof as possible. But then I start to let in, oh, well, this could be fun, and that place is cool, and look at all these modern looking people having a heck of a good time there. It actually doesn't look that different than San Francisco or New York and some of these places. And
Yeah.
the jungle just has different plants, and guess what? It has these cute monkeys. So
Right. Not just Python.
eventually
Yeah.
I'll say, okay, I think I can do it.
Renate
But it does take me
is
10 days.
if
Yeah.
you'll hold on, Erica, I want to go ahead and let Renate share because she was called upon already.
well, okay, I was always the anti-Taurus because I do things first, and when it goes down the rabbit hole, I start thinking about it. But that might be because my Mercury is in Aries, and Venus in Pisces. So now, getting older, I more and more become the Taurus. Now, I want changes so much, please. And I want to have my sofa I sit on and have some TV, because my whole life I was always running after something and had changes and changes and changes. And now I said, oh, finally, I become a stubborn Taurus. I want to stay put now. Even I have to move now again, or I want to move. But I'm not so easy going back to Mexico now. Now I start thinking. So it really is. But I know really Taurus that are so oh, their whole life, no changes, no changes, no changes. So it always depends on and my Uranus is pushing me, I think, has always looking for something new. But yeah, but now it really changed. And now I really be a Taurus.
So what about Gemini? When you're talking about not wanting to have changes, along comes Gemini, and it's all about variety and change and moving along. How does that interact with your ideas of conflict? Some can say the Gemini is, and this is for everybody to consider, somebody can pipe up next. The variety is so broad with all the topics, it's hard to pin a Gemini down into one area. It's difficult to have a discussion about differences. They kind of move very deftly into other topics.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that? Deborah, yes.
Yeah. Well, my son is a Gemini, and so are both of my grandsons.
Oh, wow.
And if there's one is going to be 12 soon, and the other is going to be 11. They're like
Okay.
a week apart on their birthdays. And if there is one characteristic that they share without fail, it's conflict avoidance.
Right.
And when things get a little heated and a little argumentative, they either leave or they change the subject and or say something comical,
Right.
to lighten up the room.
Right.
So if I had to, I did raise my son, and he was just the most docile little guy and the most pleasant little kid. But his conflict was here in his, I don't know, in his inner sense. It was rarely exteriorized, if that is a word. And I suspect that's going to be the same way with my grandsons.
Yeah, it is something that is noted about the Gemini. They tend to be conflict avoidant.
Mm-hmm.
They're very slippery in that regard.
But a Gemini woman is another story. And if Rick is still on the call, I mean, he's often spoken of a Gemini woman, the traits of a Gemini woman.
I can tell you, I know a Gemini woman, and my own mother was a Gemini woman. They could argue their pants off.
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. I mean, they should have been on the debate team. I mean, that's how they're real. But I don't really know a lot of Gemini men, or I knew one. But
They are very alert to different topics around a subject. If you get them
They are.
started, there's a lot that a Gemini can bring to the table.
Yeah. And perhaps, one of the dualistic quality of how they view the world. So, kind of goes back to hard to pin them down, because they genuinely probably see both sides of the story, both sides. But overall, I think it's more that they don't like to commit to one. They're not going to be like a Sag, where they will do anything to prove their point, or another sign that's a more kind of, they don't have that righteousness that they feel is like, worth dying for. That's not where they're coming from. It's more
I'll give you an example. It's the Gemini. It's kind of like where all the other signs, like that one thing that we are all tied together chasing. Like they it's like they have the full view of it, but it don't make sense telling you because it's like they don't want to be attached to being tied to that one thing because they see something else. Like I know what you guys, I could tell you, you know, they have all the information and they're versed on every single topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with that. Hey, everybody. Hi, Claudia. Good to see you.
Hello
Good to
there.
see you. Hey, Rick. Yeah, I feel like
Fun, yeah.
I'm thinking of Rick's book, you know, where it's like the soul goes from Taurus to Gemini, and Taurus is so grounded and not willing to change. And
Right.
then it's like the Gemini is like, oh, hey, look at this, look at this, look at this. It's like
Dynamic
three,
change in motion.
yes, yes,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
unattached.
Right. I mean, they are delightful conversationalists,
Oh, yeah.
very conversant about a broad spectrum of thought. Whether they're deep or not, that's another story. You
Yeah.
know, if they have depth, it comes from somewhere other than the sun, for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
So we can move on to Cancer. Cancers are understood to lean into conflict, looking to create empathy or looking to exude empathy at some level. And also the security issues are part of that too, because they're wanting to stay safe for themselves, but they can move into the resolution using their empathy. That can be a place where healing can come from the Cancer. But emotional sensitivity is definitely a quality that the Cancer can exhibit when it comes to conflicts. Any thoughts that you would like to anybody can feel motivated to share in regard to the Cancer? I know they have a lot of lunar qualities, lot of memories of previous conflicts that can give them a hiccup.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Cancer. I was married to one. My mother was married to one. And I have the friends, and my experience is that they don't like conflicts. They go into their shell and say
Right.
nothing.
Mhm.
That's that sensitivity.
Mhm.
Yeah, that driving me crazy was my husband. He never talked about anything. He had trouble in the company. It came out when he was drunk, but otherwise nothing. Yeah.
Wow,
So that,
Renate, I have a very similar story. Yeah, with actually this person was an Aries, but he was a Cancer rising.
Oh,
And
that makes a big impact.
sure, oh yeah, but
oh yeah,
get
my
this,
mother.
he had his moon, so the ruler of his chart was exactly conjunct Neptune. Exactly. Exactly. He, like Renate said about this other person, he didn't say anything ever. He just went into his shell. He really just didn't say anything ever at all. And it, you know, we dated for years. For years. He just never said anything, truly. And I finally like, oh my God, I can't have a relationship with this person. But when he drank, he would say stuff. So, and he drank,
Well, Neptune was going to certainly help that.
yeah, and he drank a lot. But he did that towards the end. It's just that such sensitivity. I think the willingness to find that empathic part of themselves can be there, but it isn't always like that. People do interesting things in order to be self protective.
Right.
That's their nature. They cannot help it.
Well, the positive traits of all the signs and planets are ideals that I believe first they admire, then they can experience, and with more time and more experience, then they develop. And beyond developing capability and then proficiency, then there's even a reputation for it.
Yes.
But it takes getting to the advanced step of having that reputation that
Mhm.
you're not only this way, you're known far and wide to be like that. Then you have a trait well developed.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But it's all the story. And it is through the story that we grow. Because in this Earth School, we have these lessons planned through the signs and the planets. And we're going to encounter things that, as I mentioned in the beginning, from your hard aspects, they're really going to be the more difficult things. But there's other things you can work with along the way. So, yeah. The Leo, they are said to be very focused on confidence in mediating. I believe they can be confident in mediating. The thing about the lion that represents the Leo is that it has this far range of vision. It sees into the distance from looking for predators and dangers and threats on the Serengeti, so to speak. So they're always looking at what may be something small that is not yet looming, but could turn into a danger to impact the pride. And I very much think that that's important because they include so many people. The lion really has a strong thing in common with the Italian concept of family, because in the cultural awareness of the word that is the la familia, it includes people who are not born of the same blood or married in, but are friends who are as close as family. That's actually considered in the framework
Right. Right.
definition.
Their pride.
It is, and
Yeah.
I think Venice may have a lion somewhere in their symbolism, or another Italian city. Linda, did you have a thought to share? Linda Jordan? Oh, you muted yourself.
I didn't realize I wasn't muted. Well, my father was a Leo, two of my aunts are Leos, and my current boss is a Leo.
Oh,
And so I'm dealing with them all the time. Well, my father, of course, and his sisters have
Yeah.
passed. I grew up with them. And they can be wonderful leaders as long as you don't challenge them. They do not. I mean, my dad was a boss at work. He was a mayor in our town. You know, my current boss is my boss, and she and I did not get along at all when we were peers. The minute she became my supervisor, we were best buds.
huh.
And well, because I'm a Libra. And I have all that scorpionic side, but I'm really good at being a number two. I'm very fine being somebody's wing woman and you know, and being the person, the consigliere you go to get some advice or something. But the minute she became our department chair, she just bloomed, and it's wonderful to work with her. I mean, I would have swore 5 years ago she'd be my enemy for life, and now, you know, I would pretty much do anything for her. She's wonderful. But I will say this: they want to be in charge. there's no tiptoeing around about that. They'll defend you to the death if somebody comes after you. Or, you know, my father was I have stories about my dad. You know, if people, you know, I just, all I'm going to say is, you know, you just didn't want to cross him. You know, but
There's a lot of collaboration that goes on with Leos too. When you look at the female lion, they hunt as a group and they function with precision to take down the prey that they are after. So getting goals accomplished is something that they will be a significant team player when they are recognizing hey, every organization has to have leaders and followers who can pick up the slack when it's needed.
Well, and they'll pay the price for it too. I mean,
Sure.
they're not they're not like people who want to have a crown on their head and not do anything. That's, I think,
Right.
important. But they do love the limelight. They love the limelight. So that's just my take on them. I love Leos. I get along famously with them, as long as they're my boss, as long as they're the boss of me. So, and I don't have a problem with that,
Maybe some of them need a platform.
I'm not, it's just, it's not a thing that it's in my nature not to care about that. So,
Yeah.
I'm more subterranean. The Scorpio part of me is, okay, yeah, you may be the boss, but if you're bothering me, I'll saw the limb up from under you, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So
what about Virgos? They have a very strong analytical side, but they are another sign of the zodiac that can be very avoidant. They're very slippery in conversation when it comes to being challenged about something. It's very hard for them to validate that a conflict that has been brought to their attention is needing to be addressed. They can, especially if it feels like you're calling them out. If you're calling them in to work on something together with you, that they'll get into. They'll analyze it to 6 ways to Sunday. But as far as being on the opposite side, they're not easy to go ahead and argue with in some ways. What are the thoughts that you guys have on that?
My best friend here is Virgo, and she avoids decision making. It goes on for years. She is living in the same place, always talking about, I have to change that, but nothing happened. And I remember that one very famous German astrologer said, when a Virgo comes up a mountain and they had to decide left or right, she was standing there in 2 years, still not deciding. And that is one of my experiences. Yes, when we do something together, yes, but alone, oh, no decision. And going and shopping, oh my God, do I do that's not for me. Even I have a Virgo rising. That is driving me crazy, this not making any decisions. But they're very analytical, yes, that's right. Very good and detailed, very detailed thinking.
Very much detail oriented. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Naomi. Glad you were able to join us. We are talking this evening about conflict and conflict resolution, and we're going through the signs and talking about some of the qualities and characteristics they bring to the element of conflict resolution, and even what starts as conflict. And my basic premise that I opened with, I'll repeat it as a centering principle, is that the internal conflicts we have from hard aspects can generate lessons in life that are drawn to us, that are teaching us more about how we learn about that type of conflict, that dynamic in conflict. So, yeah.
That'll be fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. We just got done with Virgo, and we're going to go on to Libra. And I'm going to throw in there, weirdly enough, I happen to have my Mars, which is all about drive and usually will jump into conflict. But because it is in its fall, I find that it gives me a fantastic capacity to seek to moderate from a more harmonious place so that I can get beyond my own personal issue in the conflict, trying to see both sides to bring the sides together. I don't know how much Libras can get wrapped up in that, but I know that sometimes the Libra can be a little bit avoidant as well, because they tend to
agree.
value that harmony of everybody getting along. What are the thoughts that some of you folks have on the Libra experience in regard to conflict?
They are nice.
Yeah, I don't know too many Librans, and yeah.
Sometimes you find
My
it
sorry.
with the Venus. Go ahead, Erica.
My experience with Librans is that it's so important for them to please and like be in partnership with the partner, that the conflict doesn't matter to them. They're like, whatever you want. It's like, no, what do you want? Whatever you want. No, that's not what I'm asking. And then you have to give up. It's like, okay, I want this. And then later on, they'll say, well, I don't want this very much. Like, why didn't you say so? Because they want to be pleasing and to get along. The opposite of Aries, who has to like blow their stack and say, I don't like this and damn that and all this. And then they feel fine. And they say, I'm sorry, I was just upset.
Yeah, fine. You know, we were talking earlier about the conflict with the Pisces, Aries, parent and child. And I think there is an issue that easily comes with the Libra of always looking externally for validation. They look for their identity of self reflected in the mirror of other. And as you're looking back and forth at other to mirror back to you, you're not really fulfilling your needs 100% of the time. That makes it complicated. I think it's always going to be important to, if you wish to value harmony, great, but know what is important to you as an individual first. Yeah, Linda.
I think the other thing about a good, what I think of as like good Libras that aren't so deeply into that mirroring side, is that Libras can be really good at managing and diffusing group conflict. You know, if you know, I think in one-on-one, I think it's very true that they tend to defer to the other person probably more than they should. But if there's like a group conflict, being a Libra, I know I'm exceptionally good at diffusing that and moving it in a direction that's more helpful. You know, even looking down the road to say, if I do this way right here, then maybe 10 days from now at the next meeting, it'll go better. I mean, I think that's possible if people are, you know, if a Libra is in a conflict situation where their own ego isn't involved, where it's just sort of a larger group process. So,
you know what? That's an incredible contribution, because Libra is the first sign that takes us out of the ego of the I, and it becomes the we, because now we're dealing with those signs that are above the horizon. Deborah, you had a thought.
I have experience with Libras and personal close relationships. And I believe that as an air sign, when they don't get the balance they want after trying to be diplomatic and accommodating of all, when they don't get that, I think they feel wounded. And the Libras I know, when they're unhappy, whether they're externalizing it or not, or just living with it, they're coming from their wounding. And that's why I think this last eclipse was it the first one?
The lunar
so
eclipse of the 25th.
With Chiron. I mean, I was hoping for the Libras that I know and love, that the healing was going to come, because I think that gets in their way, that they couldn't resolve, that they couldn't bring harmony into a situation with someone they care about.
I think the connection with the moon and the South Node in Libra of that eclipse was stirring up memories of all past relationship issues that ideally would have been just remembered. And then later with the Aryan solar eclipse afterwards, then you can adventurously move out with this idea of, I'm going to start tackling some of it. But if you don't connect with all your parts, your astrological perspective is limited by your life choices to not go ahead and see yourself as a whole person. And that gets troublesome. Does that
Something
make sense?
sorry. Can I?
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I know lots of Libras, and they all said one thing when I asked for their childhood, if they put their own needs aside because they wanted to keep the harmony in the family. And they all said, yes, exactly, that's what they did. In childhood, they put their own needs aside to keep the harmony in the family.
I know of one Libra young woman
Absolutely.
who did that, who in childhood and teen years rebelled and wanted to just be herself. And then in later years, it almost seems like she had to go ahead and look at that as not being valid expression to be herself. And she retreated into this more traditional role of being so even keeled. You could imagine her to almost be a Stepford wife, where there's this flatness to the level of vitality. So, yeah, it can go different directions. Naomi, did you have a thought, or did I misread a cue?
No, my ex-husband was a Libran, but I haven't looked at his chart, but he didn't show any qualities of being trying to keep harmony at all. Yeah, so he must have had a lot of other stuff going on in his chart. I have one girlfriend that's a Libran, and she's a psychotherapist, and I can see those beautiful qualities come through in that harmony in relationships and wanting everything to work. You know, when they
Right.
come to their higher self, they're just beautiful. Yeah.
Well, the contentious person, no matter who they are, is
Yeah.
always wanting harmony.
Yeah.
They want to fit in and have a space where they are accepted for who they are, think, believe, and feel. So if they didn't get that validation as a child, it's only going to continue to get worse if they don't start to internalize it for themselves.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And
That's it.
I'm a firm advocate that, parents have this job up to 18 years old. After that, what you didn't get, you should be working on parenting yourself in those parts where there were shortcomings. If you didn't get something, your parents were doing the best they knew. You know better what you need, so make it happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Scorpio, such a strong image. Anybody want to share some thoughts about Scorpio?
I had somebody you guys probably think I dated all these people. I didn't. This is the same people I talk about. Oh God. So I once dated a Gemini who had a lot of Gemini, but he had Pluto right on the ascendant, almost exactly on the ascendant. He was an incredibly smart person, but my gosh, do not cross this man. He'll kill you. I mean, he will have you killed because he was this rich guy too. I mean, he was so, if you crossed him one time, if you even, it was terrible. Like he was so scorpionic, manipulative. So
Well, you said also Pluto on the ascendant.
oh yeah.
So I think
So-
Plutonian ends up being more intense than Scorpionic.
Yeah. Well, I saw both, really. I saw a lot of both. But I was trying to make a point. What was the point? Oh, it was like, you know how we talk about these signs, and sometimes they're really like my Aries friend, my Aries guy that I was seeing. Well, with the moon and Neptune, that is such a strong aspect, the moon conjunct Neptune.
Yes.
It might have even been near his fourth house cusp.
Oh,
My point in saying all this is, the angles, anything near the angles. And we know
sure.
it's just so potent. It's so, so strong. But Scorpio in conflict.
They're very particular about loyalty. That's going to have an effect. They are very concerned with truth, whether it be casual or deep,
Mm-hmm.
but they're frequently in search of deeper truths. And in the search for that deeper truth, what do certain things really mean? Why are you making these assumptions about things?
Yeah.
Because is there something you're not saying? It makes you wonder. And Scorpios certainly do wonder. They have that curiosity. Yes, Erica.
They are so wonderful at getting everybody's secrets out of them.
Without
they just have
asking.
this magic touch. Yeah.
They don't have to ask.
Because you get this feeling that they really care.
They do.
And they really do. But
and they've
then
got your back.
they won't tell you anything after you've just finished telling them all your secrets. It's like, why did I tell this person all my secrets? And then God forbid that they want something good for you, they will never give up. Like I have a friend
Exactly.
who's a vegetarian, and then she became a vegan, and oh my God, for years it's like, are you eating that meat again? And she'd like put PETA, videos on my Facebook page, and I'd say, put it on your page. People don't want to see animals being tortured on this is my Facebook page. And she had to finally back down. But we've been friends for 40 years, but she is intense. Don't expect to hang out with your Scorpio friend without being exhausted after a while, because they're so intense. And my ex was a Scorpio. And I swear to God, he would be intense about taking out the garbage. I just couldn't take it anymore as a Taurus. We finally got a divorce, but not for that reason. But he was exhausting because everything was so intense. And we're great friends. We've been great friends, since then. And he hasn't remarried. But
was that a real concept, that he was intense about the garbage?
He was intense about everything.
I'm just thinking waste management would certainly be something that Scorpios would be concerned with.
That's true. That's true.
It's part of the bodily reality of the stars to the body.
Yeah. He was more about transmutation. He was a jeweler.
Okay. Recycler too?
Yeah, he would recycle a lot of the metals.
Yeah.
But he had his moon in Virgo.
Okay.
So, that ability to be a craftsman and all of that stuff too.
Yeah.
The word I would use with Scorpios that I've known is they can be somewhat suffocating when they want to buy you a gift. I mean, there's no limit to how far they will search for the perfect gift, and it's almost too much. And then it's repeated on every birthday and Christmas and everything. And it's hard, it's almost hard to reciprocate the depth of feeling and thinking that went into their gift versus your gift in return. But by the same token, that intense show of expression can quickly turn into a deep criticism or a deep wound aimed at you like a stinger and just stun you. So that's and I have that rising, that's my rising sign. And my every astrologer I ever spoke with who looked at my chart said, you have a lot of power and you're not aware of it, but everyone else sees it. And that's why some people respond so strongly to you and in a way that they feel threatened, and that I never could see. So that's what I've lived it somewhat.
Right. Renate?
Yeah, I have, we all have a lot of Scorpio energy here in the house.
Okay.
I know two men, they are like pussycats, really. One is living here, he does everything to help me, but he has a Libra moon, so I think that's the balance. And the other one has Libra North Node, but one of the women here, she is a Leo, and she has a rising Scorpio and a Scorpio moon.
Oh, okay.
And better watch out. She always said, oh, I'm nice and I'm kind, ha, ha, ha. But do something she doesn't want to hear or what. Oh my God, the Scorpio sting comes out, Interesting, yeah. My ex-husband, he was Cancer, but he has a conjunct Pluto. And I know some of them, and I always had to do with that. And my experience with anyhow Scorpio energies at all is you have the power or you got overpowered. That is always the thing. As long as they have their power in their own hand, I think when they don't misuse it, or it goes the other way around, what is very often with women being with Scorpio men, that they hand over the power to the boss, when they have a very own strong Scorpio. So that's my experience over the decades with Scorpio energy.
Right. And that's in keeping with a strong Plutonian quality as well. So that's understandable. So let's move on to Sagittarius. Any Sagittarians in the room? Maybe a moon or an ascendant, if not the sun?
I have Sag Sun.
Uh-huh.
My apologies, I had to step out for a little bit for another meeting.
No worries.
So just, I'm not sure what the question with regard to that would be.
We're talking about conflict and conflict resolution and how Sagittarius may show up in elements of conflict.
I don't know if it's my Sag Sun or if it's my Mars in Pisces, but I tend to avoid conflict, however it might be done. So I'd be the first one to back into the bushes like Homer Simpson. And
yeah,
that's kind of my attitude towards conflict.
Yeah, your Mars and Pisces could certainly account for quite a bit of that. Sagittarius generally will be very optimistic if they have to step into a conflict. And they are very fun people, which makes approaching a problem with positivity a natural experience for them in their isolated way of thinking. They do prefer a lighthearted atmosphere.
I did have to work with someone last year who for several months basically bullied me at work, in the workplace. And it was really tough. And I couldn't manage to stand up for myself and draw a line in the sand. It took me months to get to the point where I'd lost it. And finally, just, she got nasty one day and I said, too bad. That was just my response. It's too bad. You have a problem with how I'm doing things. Talk to management. See ya. And that was the way I handled that conflict. But I tried for
Well,
months.
there's a bit of optimism in that approach.
Pretty much. I just stopped caring anymore. I had been driven absolutely to distraction for months by this woman. So nothing else I could do. And then finally, I just needed to, I guess, emotionally cross the line where I was willing to do something.
You needed your action line triggered.
Yeah. And without anger, without hostility, I just didn't care anymore. I was no longer worried about being rude. That was a huge thing to me. I hate having to stand up for myself if it would be impolite or rude or inconvenient for anybody. I just can't do it.
So there was a different type of conflict within your situation, because you were dealing with a conflict that, while you were validating and appreciating, how did you put that about your conflict?
She was bullying. It was bullying behavior. She would, yell and scream and carry on and rude right in front of clients. It just, she tried to gaslight me. It was one thing after another. I mean, literally, I was absolutely beside myself physically. I tried to get out of there. Management said, no, we need you. So I kept trying to make it work, but it was awful.
So you were having an ethic of civility in flying in the face of someone who had no concern with civility?
None. And I could not treat anybody that way. I can't. It's not possible. It would be.
So even when faced with brutality, you continue
I cannot.
to hold back.
Yeah, for me, I would flee.
Right.
Given my choice, I disappear.
Yeah. And that's very common for the Sagittarius, the sign of the horse. They don't like something, they hit the road running.
Absolutely. I mean, ask my ex-husbands. I don't fight. I go to flight immediately.
Right. If it's not right, you're in flight.
That's it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
By the same token, if my back is against the wall, all bets are off. But if there's any backdoor exit, I'll take it.
Yeah. Our landlady is a Sagittarian, and there are no problems for her. And we have lots of problems, and she doesn't want any house meetings and just don't talk about it. No, we have no problems. We are a community here. No, we are not. But and there is no talking, but she has 4 planets in Scorpio. And she is using her power here in the house instead of, I always loved Sagittarians, but here I make the experience that there is no conflict. And they don't have anything. She is sick, but no, she has no pain. It's just avoidance of any kinds of problems. That's what I see.
Run from physical problems too. That's true. I mean, if there's something wrong, I keep very busy and I don't have to pay attention to it.
Yeah, that's what she does. Very busy and yeah.
Well,
I had this kidney stone I was dealing with for since February, mid-February, 5-millimeter stone. And I had to go to a series of 6 different metaphysical fairs. And the first 3 that I went to, I made sure to tell somebody, if I'm on the floor, this is why. I just wanted somebody to know, if I pass out, this is why. And apart from that, I'm just not going to deal with it. I mean, I did what I was supposed to do. They told me that I could do nothing but wait. You know, it was a case of this too shall pass, and that was all I could do.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Well, with Rick here, that brings us to the Capricorns. Capricorns tend to approach conflict with practicality and responsibility.
Yeah.
So that idea that Rick shares about being sure is all wrapped up in the
Yep.
practicality and the what was the word I just used? The responsibility, practicality and responsibility. There's a lot
Adulting.
of that making sure, covering the base.
Adulting. Yeah.
I make sure you know it's your fault.
Are you the one that said something about
Hmm.
people? Oh, what is that old saying that people are looking for somebody to? I can't
Oh, I
remember
said
what the
that
other two people are, but one thing they
you
look
need,
for is somebody to blame.
you need three things in life:
Yes,
food and air, and somebody to blame.
gotcha.
That's
Yeah.
great.
That's pretty true.
You certainly can't do without the food and the air, that's for sure. But that somebody to blame, I think that gets found very easily.
So, what are you talking about, Capricorns?
How they show up in conflict. And that's where,
Well, number one is they're very much experts not showing up. That's why you never play paintball with them, because they're so good at hiding behind the structures, operating within the structures, and the CYA, covering your own butt. They're really the experts at it. So if you get through all those things, then they're really sunk, because if they can't hide behind the structures, that leaves them barren and naked, and boy, they can't deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's been my observation.
yeah, I think there's a difficulty dealing with personal vulnerability in Capricorns at times. To acknowledge personal vulnerability is something that is kept
Well,
private.
well, you're no doubt about that. There's no doubt in it. That's why they do everything they can to dodge all that stuff before it happens.
Right, right,
And if it does happen, then they're SOL.
right. Very true.
They're very careful sign.
Yeah. The difficulty
Like
about it,
when Liza catches me with my hand in the cookie jar, there's not much I can do. She
Oh,
puts her
that's
hand
funny.
in too. That's what.
Uh-huh. Well, that brings us to
That's
Aquarius, since you mentioned Liza. How does
Aquarius
it,
is a tough sign. Tough sign to talk
Aquarius
about.
shows up with a lot of ideas when it comes to resolving conflict.
Yeah.
Got that right. You better have done your homework.
Yeah, they also promote personal growth when there is conflict.
Mm-hmm.
They like to see things
Yeah.
connecting so that everybody is coming to a better space. I'm trying to think of
That's true, and they're tough to beat because they're seldom wrong. They're just usually in the right. They're very idealistic and straightforward.
at least in their higher manifestations.
Right, right.
I think any of the signs you can come up with,
Right.
places where they may have been
Yeah.
wounded in childhood and didn't get past a few certain things, I think those childhood wounds are where you find people that are epitomizing the darker side of a sign,
Yeah, yeah.
it comes out.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And then we had that lovely connection of the Aries Pisces start to our conversation. This brings us back to Pisces. Pisces in conflict. Woo-wee.
Good luck. Good luck. Good luck with Pisces.
I'm here.
Good
I'm
luck
here.
with
I'm
That's
here.
very
What?
avoidant.
What?
I'm here.
It's all Sean's fault.
Oh
Sean, what do
man.
you think?
So I got my Mars in Scorpio. What I tend to realize with me is that whenever you say conflict, correct?
Right.
So
Yeah.
like whenever is the right time to strike is when I strike. And usually I don't miss, pretty much, is what it seems like.
Well, that's how
Very
your Mars
precise.
is showing up through the Scorpio. How does your sun
Correct.
get you
But
into
as
trouble
far
with
as
the Pisces?
with the Pisces now, it's just me expressing the truth that this reality is not reality. Then that's the conflict.
What a Pisces
Yeah.
answer. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
Oh, that's great.
We're
Tough.
delusional,
It's a very,
but I'm not gonna fight with
very tough
anyone.
sign.
We all get there one day.
Yes,
Yes.
it's
Right.
true. It's true.
It's a lovely vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
they're mystique of a sign. They're
Yeah.
very
And it's like, and as
complex.
far as conflict,
Now,
let me
when
just.
I put this,
Oh, I thought you want to finish first, Rick?
Pisces are non-conflicting. Now, when I put this up on the air tonight, what would the subject be? Just conflict resolution.
conflict and conflict resolution. Yeah. It's basically conflict through the signs.
That's what I was about to
Okay.
say. Right.
All right.
Yeah.
I just, can I offer?
Should
Yeah, Deborah, you had wanted to say something, and then
Oh,
gonna
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
Erica. Okay, I just want to say a quick thing because we kind of hurried over Virgo, and I have my experience with Virgos is I have a different take on it. I think they're very they're a little bit controlling, or managing the managers of everything.
Micromanaging something.
But as they advance in years, they retreat. You hardly hear from them anymore, and they kind of just, um, move, go to a fishing village somewhere or whatever. But once they're out of the public domain, they disappear.
Yeah.
And
They
I
like
think,
having a nose
that's an interesting way to look at all the signs is not only how are they in the first 2/3 of their lives, but how do they behave, and how do they rise or retreat as their lives progress?
That's an interesting topic for another discussion for sure.
Yeah.
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 Virgos love to keep their nose clean.
Right.
Well, I will be finishing up the topic 2 weeks from tonight on guns and murders and why that thing happens. I will be out of commission for 2 weeks, and Rick and Claudia will kindly take my place, and I'm real happy to see it tonight. We still don't have internet. I'm still coming to you through a telephone. But anyhow, thank you both for taking over. Thank you, everybody, for keeping it up. I'll see you, all of you, in a couple of weeks, and keep your fingers crossed.
We sure will.
Take
We'll
care.
be praying
Much
and
love.
thinking of you.
Yep,
Thank
you're
you.
in my heart, Rick. Take care.
We love you.
Yeah,
Shelby
we
says
do
bye.
love you.
Love you, Rick.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Love you. I love all of you. You send me your
love
goodies
you too.
of
Love
the
you back.
video, and I'll put it up.